Hello. Hello, hello. I kind of feel like I turned on the music a bit too much. Like maybe turn it a bit down. Maybe that's a bit. Maybe like this. I think that works. Let me just check the audio really quick. Just a second. All right. Okay. Well, hope you're all doing very well. Hope you're drinking enough water. I got some tea. I'm still trying to find a kind of discount. I don't know what you would call this in English. Um, like a supermarket label essentially that actually sells good tea. We'll see. I mean, don't necessarily have to be, a supermarket label. Worst case, I guess I'll get them online or something. No, I don't want them, to be imported because that just sucks, all that extra money spent on nothing. So yeah, I'll probably get like some inland, some local quote, local as a nation state, local tea, you know. And lucky me, I don't, really like Chinese tea anyway. Like, what the Brits would have been trading back in the day, right? It's not my kind of tea. I like herb teas, herb teas. There's so much. Oh, there's so much amazing herb. So many amazing herbs. I don't know. So much of it. I. Okay. Enough of the introduction. Kinda hot. Is the window open? Yes. It's pretty rainy outside today, so it's actually quite cool, which is nice. Past few days have been a little bit too hot. I'm not quite sure where to go, what to do here, but I just wanted to address this drawing here that I did last minute yesterday, right? Because if you just look at it a little bit longer, you immediately start noticing all of that jazz. So let me just write down, draw from imagination. Conscious of the rules of form. Okay. Okay, let me just write down to not. So do not um, dismiss construction. Do not dismiss it. Do not forego it, rather. I think that's a word, right? So, at least for myself, because as you can see here, there's a lot of stuff just not working properly, right? It's just not working. What we could do to remedy that, right, would have been to actually properly construct where the figure is looking, just the general boundaries of the forms, maybe some general bends here and there, like, where's the neck, where's it going, what is it doing? All that stuff that, you know, is actually keeping this piece here from being anything more than just a scribble, right? So, yeah, I could go in and try and fix this, I guess, because, I mean, it wouldn't hurt, right? And I'm too hot right now because of the tea, um, to be thinking about a whole lot more complex things. If I'm already, you know, just trying to focus. Okay, let me get rid of actually all of this. Maybe even more, actually. I think I'll redo this. I like the eye, so I'll leave that. Let's see if I can find my way back into this, because I don't quite... Ah, yes, okay, it was that brush. So I want to do some construction here, right? Some basic construction stuffs. Just so that we all know where this form is supposed to be going. For that purpose, I have to do some... Actually, let me just redo the entire face here. Whatever. This jawline. I also don't like this like weird ass sack thing, throat part. I don't know what you would call this. I don't know if there's even a word for it. But it just kind of felt right in the moment to draw. I know. We'll see. We'll see if it stays or not. Let me just get some general constructions down. Let me see where I want to anchor them. I feel like here would be a good idea. Actually, let me put on my glove before I start drawing. Also, I hope the music isn't too loud, because, for me personally, I always turn it down a lot more. So audio mixing isn't exactly something you can do all that well by yourself. But, I want this to be a background tune. Not too overbearing, not too quiet. I think this might be fine. I think I had it at minus 60 decibels earlier, or maybe more. Maybe more, And so that was obviously too quiet. I don't know about now, but it's not supposed to be like this overbearing music, and I don't know. I don't want to be bothering with finding the perfect piece of music, or rather all the licensing things. The music I'm using right now is already, some of it at least, specifically the pieces by Sharo, I don't know how to pronounce his name. The Japanese artist, basically. It's already pretty iffy, because I would like to talk a bit more freely about more things, since the licensing, though, is just odd. I just don't, I just personally think it's a bad move. At least if you're doing it in the West, if you expand your business, quote unquote, into the West, as an Asian, I think it's or specifically as a Japanese person, I think it's a bad idea, to try and um, force onto them your uh, moral system, essentially, because that specific way of thought only works within your country, you know. So it might be perfectly fine in Japan to do it that way, you know. And it might be a good practice in a sense for um, say protecting your brand, I guess you could say. I don't know the specifics of like copyright law in Japan, you know. I just heard it's a bit more harsher, let's say, than the Millennial Act, for example, you know. Although, I mean, honestly, well, you know, most of these laws are pretty questionable to begin with, but that's a different topic. I just mean to say that I think you're just opening yourself up to unnecessary venues of attack if you just take the hands-off approach as, say, someone who makes music to use as a royalty-free option, right? I think it's a bad move to try and force them to adhere to your so-called licensing agreement because you're basing them off of your moral system, you know. I don't know what to what extent that is true, of course, you know, because it could just be covering your bases as a Japanese person living in Japan, most likely, right? Because it could be what is necessary to do for your copyright to like adhere to copyright laws in your own country. I don't know, you know. I'm just from a general perspective, I think it's better to not take responsibility for other human beings that you don't have control over, you know, because it just leads to a lot of weird situations where you're suddenly, you know, made um, the accomplice of someone, and then you're forced to like accept, you know, your duty as a say um, moral busybody in a sense, you know. It's just not a good way of handling business, I think, honestly. Like, it's one thing if you don't want to engage in business with someone else, but if you're, you know, releasing a product for everyone to use, I think licensing agreements on basis of, like, say, thought. In other words, you can't use my music if you talk about these topics, or about these things, or if these themes, you know, happen in your videos or whatever. I think that's a bad move. You should simply just be like, if at all, even, you just should be like, you know, well, to the extent of you not doing any illegal things, right? You can use this however you wish, and then maybe add to that, just can't resell it or remix it as your own music. I mean, that's honestly all. Just imagine like no copyright music going in and being like in the early days of their um what's the word, inception, being like, well, you can use this piece of music unless you talk about, I don't know, the prices in your state. Because, like, you know, a lot of these artists are like, don't talk about politics, right? Or religion. Those topics are so deeply ingrained in human society all across the world. There's hardly any topic you can talk about. Not that there isn't any, right? But there's hardly any topics that would be worth talking about that don't, you know, include religion or your moral system to an extent, and or politics. It's like these things are deeply woven into human existence, you know. Politics perhaps not as such, since they are supposed to only be an extension of your, you know, moral systems, if you think about it, you know. But still, it's kind of, you know, whatever. I mean, I might look up uh some different music pieces, maybe just from no copyright music. But you know, I don't know if they have that much music that's just relaxing. Don't get me wrong, you know, it's not like the music is bad or anything, but sometimes it's just it's just a bit weird, I guess you could say. Okay, I think now I kind of want to think about where the jaw is. It kind of looks like the jaw is here, right? In this general area. I just want to think about, like, what do you call it? The muscles to the left and right of your eyes. You know, just above your eyebrows. The muscle that is on the side of your head. I don't know what it's called. Um, Essentially, if you bite down on something, right? Or if you just engage your jaw muscles, those muscles right there on the side of your head, above your eyebrows, right? Also engage. I don't know what they are called. I just want to get this, like, general idea of those engaging across as well. So I'm thinking maybe we'll do something like, I don't know if this might not be a bit too weird. We'll see. We'll try and figure it out. You know, it's not like I'm some sort of professional here anyway. It's fine to fail, right? Just try and have fun. I'm kind of interested in seeing if I can fix this. It's always something I enjoy occasionally doing, you know, not all the time, not every day. But when I think about it, right, about having drawn something, I like going back to that, re-examining it and trying to redraw it sometimes, you know, see if I could do it better. And it's like the only real gauge I have for, like, seeing my progress, right? Because if I can actually make um, more difficult, say, angles work or new ways of drawing, then I might just actually have improved. But we'll see. We'll see, we'll see, we'll see. So first, I just want to get in. Okay, let me rethink this. I want to keep in mind that I want these lines that I'm putting down here, right? I want them to follow the form of whatever it is that I'm drawing. Since I don't have a reference image, I'm just pulling the forms out of my mind as they come, you know? I'm just like, whatever. Whatever kind of seems to work, you know? And since I don't know what really works, doing that might be a bit difficult. So, you know, enjoy seeing me fail, I guess. I don't know. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. We'll see if that, you know, will work or not. And don't forget you have an eraser too, so don't worry about putting down too much color. It's fine. Trying to do a value study, more like a form study in a sense, not so much value, because this is not good distribution of values. I think it just doesn't look good, but it's an interesting way of figuring out for yourself how to make forms work in this, how should I say this, different way of drawing, I guess. Because now we are not worrying about lines and outlines so much. We are more worrying about planes, where they are heading, you know? That's why you're trying to follow, you know, these imaginative forms. You know, you're not trying to shade everything like this, right? Everything diagonally. You want to actually try and be more like, okay, maybe for a cup, you know, I don't know, the lines would follow something like this. They would flow, they would turn, then they turn again a different way. Then you're going, I don't know, something like this maybe. You're trying to keep in mind where these, you know, forms or planes really are leading you to. And you're trying to follow them as best as you can, you know. And perhaps, I don't know, doing something like this maybe. And then we're doing something like this maybe. And then all of a sudden, we're starting to get this cup, or like, what would you call this? Goblet, I think, right? Goblet. Kind of a funny word. Goblet. You know? All of a sudden, you kind of have a goblet of sorts. Now, if you want to then refine the shapes, right, you would start going in with your eraser, for example, or whatever way you find more comfortable, right? Like it's easier for myself if I don't have to worry too much about if I'm putting the forms perfectly down at first. I just want to get them down out of my mind, essentially. And then I can worry about refining them later by just using different strengths of erasers, essentially. I find that easier, at least for now, you know. It's easier when you're a beginner because you don't have to fear, say, the empty canvas, right? Because you're just putting stuff down already. You're just putting it down. Whatever way it looks like, that's fine. Just try to keep your basics, your fundamentals in mind that we have talked a lot about, you know, but to repeat them, to get them back into our minds maybe a little bit here, we want to keep in mind how to describe three-dimensional form, right? That's essentially what you're doing here anyway. That's what we want to keep in mind at all times. Ask yourself how to describe the three-dimensional forms. Okay? We want to, I personally at least, if you have no idea of what we're doing, maybe try through the bend in your lines, as I've shown you and demonstrated you right there. Right? So like by going in and making sure, by going in and making sure that you're following the direction of the planes are traveling essentially, right? So what we just did, right, we want to try and follow the general flow of this goblet. Maybe think about how someone would have made it, right? How would they have made it? What would the materials, in what direction would they bend, right? So when it's something blacksmith, right? Say a sword of some sort. You want to think about, okay, what would the sword look like? What would the materials on a sword look like? So maybe you get your general proportions in, if that helps you, because I'm terrible at drawing swords. So that's something I want to do at least. Just want to get an idea of where everything is before I start out, right? And perhaps proportion is the wrong word, because I'm really just looking at what looks nice. I don't have a clue how to properly make these proportions work anyway. But maybe if you have a rough idea, or if you approach this differently, right, you might want to think about, well, how would this look like, right? Where would the light fall? Or how does the material bend? In a sword, if you're thinking about, say, it's just been hammered, you know, you could, for example, start, I don't know, how would a sword look like? I don't know, how would the material actually bend? Personally, I think, depending on what sword you have, of course, might not be a bad idea to go outward from the middle or inward from the sides of the blade, for example. That could work. Like, although I'm more like thinking about texture right now, more so than um, just general form, I think. Like, that's the difficulty and the risk you're taking here. You just end up making terrible looking art. So whatever. Actually, I'll just leave this here because I don't know what to do with this. Maybe I'll refine it later. Let me just go back to this here, to our weird ass looking Drake dinosaur thing, and try and follow the shapes in the shadows, I guess you could say, more so. Like, you want to put down your shapes, or sorry, your shadows in such a way that you are following the form, whatever that form may be. Just imagine like a tongue, for example, right? Think about it. Well, the tongue kind of has this, how should I say? It has this underside to it, right? So, say this is a tongue and it's curled up here. So maybe like this is the body of the tongue, this is the tip of the tongue, and then this might be like the rest here, right? You have this underside to the tongue that's basically connecting it to the bottom of your jaw, right? This, like, I don't want to say net, that's the wrong word. It's hard to say. I mean, just look in the mirror and lift your tongue. You'll see what I mean. And depending on how you move that tongue, right, you'd have to draw in. That's not as what I want. I should make this a bit bigger, I think. But whatever. You know. Just try and think about roughly. You don't always have to make it work exactly that way, you know. It's fine if you fail, essentially. I think that's beyond all the fancy words I'm using, or other artists or whatever, beyond all of the what is essentially smoke and mirrors to pretend as though we somehow know what we are doing, when most of the time I think most artists would agree they don't really. It's like you at some point, of course, you build a method of approaching this, but you're still doing some, guesswork here. The amount just changes a little bit, I would say, but it doesn't really go away. But beyond all of these, nice tips and tricks to get better at art, I think the most important thing is just keeping in mind that it is fine and good and normal to fail, like actually fail, genuinely. Just fail at what you're doing. That's okay. Like it's fine. It's necessary. This is the body of work that encompasses art is like mental. It's basically in the like 99% of the human experience. If you boil it down, I would say even. If you boil it down, it's kind of like what art is. It's insane. Like it's uh, I don't even know how to describe this to put into words. How to put this into words? The amount of like insane things you can do with this. It's like, it encapsulates the world, I guess you could say. Art, I mean, sometimes literally. So, it's perfectly fine to fail at whatever it is that that you're doing, and you have to get comfortable with it. You can't go into this and be like, I'm the winner type. I will win this. And hey, I mean, perhaps you will be the greatest artist in all of history to have ever existed. I wish it. You know, you have my um, most ardent support in that manner. By any means, if that's your dream and wish, I hope you can realize it. But the issue most of the time is that you can't approach that as I'm a winner type, therefore I don't make mistakes. Because I can tell you, if your ego is too much in the beginning phases of your art journey, you will just fail. You will not make it at all. Not even a debate. You won't make it. It's too much. It's too difficult. And you will just end up ruining yourself. Trying to always win. I'm going into art to win. To an extent, obviously. You shouldn't try to defeat yourself before you even started. I'm not at all saying this. But I think it's just the immense amount of complexity in this field that leads to all of these different like advices floating around. Everyone has their own approach in a sense, their own method and whatever else, because it's so much, it's so complex. It's just inevitable. At the same time, you want to be in a mindset where you still keep going. So you want to endure without being prideful, I guess you could say. Give yourself enough reason to endure and try not to let it go to your head, your achievements, I guess you could say. In a sense, this sounds very like spiritual, this whole exercise of trying to learn art, Actually, it's kind of funny how that is the case. Interesting. I wonder if there's like any actual correlation here, if people smarter than me have like found some sort of connection in this regard. I mean, there has to be a reason other than just, say, brute force, right? For artists to have made all of these fascinating masterpieces back in the day. And more so in a sense of most of them being of like religious nature, or or a lot of them. And I get that it's like more so the fault of the Renaissance, and specifically the funding of like the artists through the higher um, or more wealthy sections of society, which were interlinked with the papal states and Catholic beliefs and just religion, right, back in the day. Because the Renaissance basically came out of Italy anyway, which was not all of them, but a lot of them deeply connected to Rome and such. You can make I think you can make an entire thesis just about that. But I don't think that would be particularly useful here. I don't know what I even want to say. I don't even know what the point was of all of this. I suppose I just want to encourage you to not give up in your art journey, and to an extent accept that your art will look like shit, because it will, and it has, you know so I think just getting used to that thought might be helpful, but you don't want to overdo it. you know you don't want to fall into the trap of beating yourself up too much, or on the other side being delusional about the quality of your art. you know it's a balancing act, like most things in life. All of them are a balancing act in a sense. I don't know why I'm working so much on this goblet. I don't even know if it's looking like anything interesting, but I'm kind of enjoying the act here of working on this at this moment. And it's fun to just figure out the way to make this brush work, because it's like the size, is determined by the tilt angle. So it's kind of fun to try and regulate your strength and the angle. Sometimes complexity is fun, you know? Oftentimes it's not, though. Oftentimes you just want things to be easy and work, you know? They should just work most of the time. But you know, occasionally complexity is fun. Difficulty is fun, you know? In a way, suffering is fun. And no, I don't mean the kind of Maho, or sorry, not Maho, the sort of like, what's the enemy called? Like the slave one? Not that kind. Not the kind of, you know what I'm talking about. Oh, just regular suffering, life, essentially. What is it called? Not made for isekai. It's like the slave thing. I just didn't bother watching because I'm not about that. Mato Mato Seihei, demon slave, basically. Yeah, not that kind of suffering. This is no, don't mean humiliation at all. Not even close. Let me drink something. I talked a bit too much about random ass things. But like, back to the topic of the licensing things, like all the things I just talked about in terms of art, I wasn't necessarily trying to force it into the way of religion, you know. It felt natural for my tangent to go that way. Is that now not allowed? And are you going to just like look at every single artist or whoever else is using your music to ensure that they aren't misusing it? It's like, it's a stupid thing. You're basically opening yourself up to be forced by the activists that are currently running around in the West and both basically most of the modern world to force you to do something, to force you to disavow someone. You're basically opening yourself up to be forced to throw away potential opportunities. And even if that isn't necessarily the case, why would you want someone else to tell you what to do at all times? Like, come on, you're an adult, aren't you? You are a human being. You ought to have your own thoughts and act upon them to be able to live, no? Why would you make yourself like willingly the subject of random people that you don't know that have no obligation towards you? Why would you let them lord over you in such a way? I find that unreasonable, you know? It's kind of weird, but maybe that's just me. I don't know. Maybe I'm way outside the norm here. I don't know. You know, there's not a whole lot of people that usually can talk about this kind of stuff. Like, and I don't, you know, I don't want to say like deep thoughts or anything because it's just like, oh, like I mean, if you've been alive for a while, you know, and if you've been on like say dating sites or whatever, I'm sure you've seen this like I think about deep thoughts, like I'm a deep thinker kind of shit. It's like so cringe. I could die. Like just trying to remember that sort of stuff. It's just like pure cringe, you know? It's beyond cringe. Why would you put that out? It's such a weird thing to say about yourself, you know? I don't know. It's such a weird thing. So I should stop on I should stop at this like thing here. It's kind of looking funny. Like the texture down here kind of looks like a tree. Kind of looks like wood or carved to some extent. I guess that's the general texture of the brush, huh? It's giving me this like carved feeling here. Hmm. Anyway, let's move on to our creature here. I guess it's just I don't know. Whatever. Let's try and finish this up. See if we can make anything out of it. You know. I don't want to lay too much color or shade into this yet, but sometimes you just have to make the forms be to be able to differentiate between all of the different like forms, you know. Sometimes you just have to start out heavy-handed, you know. Not just what I'm doing is I'm just trying to think in general terms, you know. Why does the tongue lead to? Well, I guess there would be some sort of like throat back here, right? So that would probably just be a very dark spot in the mouth. Because why would you try and overcomplicate things for yourself? But I guess we were actually more like talking about. Sorry, that was a massive tangent into an entirely different universe, I guess. That was something else. But back to the thing we were actually talking about, that being the things you should keep in mind when you're trying to do this sort of stuff, or any sort of drawing, really, you know, is the description of form, right? How to describe the forms. When you're drawing in lines and not in planes, for example, you just think differently. It's just a natural way of doing it, since you are, you know, essentially using a different method to draw. Like if I draw like this, right? I'm thinking in different. I'm slightly changing my thought pattern. Most of the time, in a way that I don't notice it. You know, I don't notice the shift in thought really, because it's most of it is like subconscious. I'm trying to just guide my subconsciousness, I guess you could say. I, you know, honestly, and that might be a hot take. I don't know. More than anything, I think art is a study of your own subconsciousness, and in a sense, finding a way to guide its output. You know, you can't force it necessarily, but you can work to minimize the failure rate. It's like increasing the accuracy in a video game. Say you have, I don't know, like a game where you just have to shoot down ducks, right? And let's say you can get some upgrades. I know, you know, the horrible skill tree that's everywhere nowadays, you know. But just for sake of argument, let's say you have like, you know, a crosshair of some sort. It's very simple. You just shoot at ducks, whatever, right? Or like some other kind of bird. Just trying to shoot them down, but your hits miss, you know. They have, say, an 80% chance, right, of missing. However often you aim directly at that thing, 80% of the time you just miss. 20% of the time you hit. To make it more like art related or more easily understood in that sense, I guess you could also say, well, you're trying to hit on a very specific part of the body of a bird of sorts. How do you even draw a bird? I don't know. It's like a tomato flying in the sky, no? And then it has some things going on like this, right? Maybe like something else, and then like something like this, and then something like that, and maybe this. It's a very derpy bird. Derpy bird. Maybe it dropped some egg nukes, right? Here it has its weird like feet, and this is like its wings, right? That's how birds look like, right? They drop these massive like egg bombs. I don't know. Anyway, but say you're trying to hit a specific body part, right? Like the head, or maybe you're trying to hit the body. But 80% of the time, you just miss the entire target. 20% of the time, or like 15, let's go actually 18% of the time, you hit any body part, right? Like it's at random. And 2% of the time, you hit exactly where you want to hit. you know. Now, the process of getting better at art is essentially reducing those two numbers, and as a consequence, right, you will increase your general accuracy. I think that's most of what art is about. It's not so much, finding the one rule to do all of the art at the same time perfectly. It's like, well, not really, because the outcome of your art, or sorry, the outcome of your endeavors, right, is heavily reliant on the tools you use, on the themes you work with, all that sort of thing, on your own understanding of the themes, of your own understanding of the how to say this. I guess we can just leave it at your own understanding of the themes and all of its accompanying, like, I don't know, sub things. I don't know. What am I drawing here? I don't know. I kind of lost the train of thought because I lost the train of thought because I thought, well, anyway, I had the impression that someone was um, ringing my doorbell, so I kind of was trying to listen for it, and then I completely lost my train of thought. But I'm drifting off again. I'm tangenting so much today. Oh, sorry. What the hell? I'm completely out of it. Like, I just shoved a Mentos chewable, you know, into my mouth, completely forgetting what I'm doing right now. It's like, I guess I could have a Mentos. I'm sorry about that. I don't know what came over me. anyway, anyway, keep in mind the forms, or rather, keep in mind how to bend your shapes, your lines rather, right? Your strokes, you could say, if you're thinking in terms of like painting, right? Try and make them follow the form, because ultimately you're trying to draw the planes. Say, to make it less general, when you're drawing a human, obviously you're not drawing from the bone down every layer, right? You're not like starting out with like a perfectly accurate representation of your bone structure, of your skeletal structure, right? Then layering on top, I don't know, the nerves or the blood vessels. I don't know. I guess nerves, then the blood vessels. Then you start building onto that the, I don't know, the muscle strands. I don't know, something like this maybe, right? Layering all of that on top of each other, and then you go in and draw the skin on top of that, or maybe you draw in the fat um, reserves everywhere. It's like, that's not how you draw a human body. That's insane. Impractical, and you're just doing things that end up being useless, you know? Instead, most of the time, while you might put down an armature, right? Like a general representation of the most basic primary forms of the figure, right? You might do something like this, I guess. Put in some bends here and there, you know? Get in the shoulder. Think about the neck. That kind of stuff, you know? You're not building everything at the same time and you're not building it from the ground up, you know? What's the saying? If you want to make a sandwich from scratch, first build the universe. That's an insane approach and impossible for a human. You shouldn't try and draw your human figures from the very atoms all the way up, right? That's insane. That's kind of stupid. Don't do that. Stupid. Instead, focus on the planes. Your skin. Where is the skin wrapping around? You know? So, like, say you're drawing an arm or a shoulder. What you want to think about most of the time when you're trying to represent three-dimensional forms is the planes, the outermost visible, I guess, yeah, plane. I don't know a different word. My English is failing me. I'm talking in circular ways. It's kind of stupid. I still haven't. Focus on your forms. Just, just try it, man. Fuck you. Sorry about that. Forgive my English and my French. Just draw. That's what I want to say. I'm done with talking. I'm mad now. I failed so much at trying to describe what I'm thinking about that I just don't want to think about it anymore. I don't. I don't want to think about it anymore. Leave me alone. You ass. You know? Hmm. Anyway, I hope I'm not like catching some sort of brain aneurysm or like heart attack the way I'm sitting and effectively trying to kill the blood circulation in my legs. Fucking hell. Let me just get rid of the mental chewable here. All right. So, let's just draw. I kind of want to stop yapping so much. I've been yapping for an hour almost now. I can't do this anymore. But like, that's the kind of things I just usually think about. Not all the time, of course. Like, I'm not some sort of maniac. I don't think, at least. I hope. I don't know, but I would hope. I'm not. I'm not trying to, you know, play myself off as like this guru of knowledge. I just want to talk. That's just my way of exchanging information, my way of learning things, or rather, actually, most of humanity's way of learning things through stories, through what people say. I don't personally really like the bureaucratic aspect of human life. I don't, it doesn't do much for me. It's unimportant most of the time. It's, I would even say it's a perversion of human nature in a very real sense. But yeah, I think this time I might be moving too much into the territory of politics in general. So we'll leave it at that. Please do not take my opinions as anything else other than my opinions. Or do, I don't care. I was like, or do, and I don't know. Sue me, I guess. I don't know. It's kind of, you know. Now this thing kind of looks derpy because doesn't have any teeth. And I feel like hmm, what was I saying? Unimportant. But this thing kind of looks derpy. I'm following too much of the construction here, I think. It's kind of hindering me from just like experimenting with my drawings. In that sense, I guess I'm very much like Davi, the artist I talked about yesterday. Um, the art of Davi, like I think Davii. So like art of, that's his YouTube channel, I think. Something like that, along those lines. Yellow logo, black font, I think. Oh, I don't quite remember. I'd have to look it up. Anyway, but he just talked about, funnily enough, I think he just uploaded it either yesterday or a few days ago. I'm not quite sure anymore. He talked about where to begin in painting when you have no idea. And he was like trying to explain his method, you know, where he's basically taking some art he likes, you know, and then he goes in and takes one part of the art and tries to use it in a piece that he's just drawing from imagination, essentially, where he's going in and say taking the pose of a piece of art he likes, transposing it, or like just using it on his own art, essentially. This is looking very ugly because I'm not following the general shapes here. My lines aren't following the direction of the shapes right now, which is why they look so ugly. But I think we can still do a lot of things. Kind of want more mass in here. Also, I want this a bit longer, I think. It's kind of looking funny and derpy at the same time. It's a weird combination of things happening right there. But that's okay. You know. We can make it work or not. We'll see. We'll figure it out when the time comes. Or not. Or we will not find it out. I haven't thought about too much where the light is actually coming from, which is a bad move. Always, whenever you're doing any sort of painting where value plays a role, keep your direction of light in mind. Most simply, through just painting it in. Where's the light coming from? This way, for example, or this way. And try to keep it in mind whenever you're drawing, because otherwise you'll end up doing this kind of shit, and that's not a way to do it. That's not the right way to do it, or the best way to do it, you know. But at this point in time, it's keeping me interested in what I'm doing, you know. So it's whatever. It's fine. Could be worse by just, you know, by not doing it. Could be a lot worse. You know, I could be trying to procrastinate, or like just try and flee from painting, right? Because I'm bad at it. And your brain starts hurting when you try and learn things that you are bad at, you know? You try to learn new things in general. There's like a natural aversion to learning new things in a sense. I personally didn't feel it that much with art, because at the point where I started doing it, like it was essentially a non issue to start doing it anymore. It's like, I don't know how to explain it. I don't know. But anyway. But I didn't have to think about it all that much anymore, you know? Whether or not I should start. To stay motivated. What was I talking about? I don't remember. Just sometimes I just forget what I'm thinking about. And that sometimes is very often. Anyway, if it's something of import, I will remember it, but likely it's just me yapping. You know? Very likely I'm just randomly yapping things that make no tangible difference about anything. I kind of like this brush. I also hate it at the same time. Like, you know, the artifacts it's throwing. This stuff in the middle here that occasionally appears. And just in general, the way the end of the lines are being made significantly darker. But, you know, again, it could be worse. It's like, it's whatever. I don't want to do the whole, oh, I need a new brush kind of like exploratory things. I don't know. I'm just talking out of my ass. Hmm. I just yap a lot. Sorry, guys. I yap a lot. At least today I'm yapping a lot. But hey, you know, maybe this will be the stream. This will be the stream of all streams. For I have plans. Great plans of grandeur. Okay, I need to take a break here for a second. Ouch. My back is starting to hurt. Maybe because I'm drinking so much water, or tea rather. I have like this. I don't know if this is some sort of heresy, and I don't know what is black tea? Is that, I don't know. Let me see if I can find. Hmm. Camellia sinensis. So this is actually like a China, China tea. Black tea is China tea. China tea. So I guess I have to take back to an extent what I said earlier about Chinese teas. I didn't know to this day that black tea is Chinese tea. But it's the only like I only drink black tea when there is no other option. When all the other teas I have in the house are dog shit. That's when I drink black tea. Happens occasionally. Um, but I don't drink it as you normally would. I drink it with milk. So I don't know. I don't know. That's just what I do. I kind of felt like saying that is like some sort of heresy. Maybe not as bad as Horus's, but I thought it's like some sort of like crime against humanity or China, which basically doesn't exist anymore. I kind of want to talk about so much things today. I don't know. I'm so sad about lots of things going on in the world. It's insane. But at the same time, I'm still alive. It could be worse. You know, I'm not being currently tortured. I have enough food, and I have light and energy, and I have the internet. Right. So, where I'm standing, there's a very, very, very deep, dark abyss. You know, that can still be reached. So, I don't know, this looks insanely dog shit. This thing. What am I drawing here, guys? Help. But look how quickly you can make this work, right? So this tooth looks really shit, right? Now I erase some parts here, maybe some more here. Whoop, whoop. All of a sudden, you know, it starts having some sort of form because it looks like the light is bouncing off of, you know, what would you say? Only have the word memorized in German right now. So like, what would you say to that? How would you express it? I forgot the word. Just when I tried to open the translator. Anyway, it's the universe is trying to tell me. God is talking to me. He's been like, dude, shut the fuck up and do some drawings, please. I'm not here to listen to your yapping. Okay, okay, I'm sorry. I'll get on to it. Anyway, it kind of, very loosely worked, the redrawing of this. The perspective is slightly better. The value is still dog shit. The forms aren't being properly described because I stopped doing it, you know, halfway through. So, sorry about that one. And yeah, that's how it is. Yeah, starting to add fillers like Crony. Unbelievable. And yeah, when she doesn't know what to what to say. And yeah. When there is no follow up, you just repeat what you said. Like a normal human being. Or you say, yeah, you know. It's kind of fun. Like, not necessarily like analyzing, but just noticing the speech patterns of people. It's kind of funny. It's like a glimpse, into who they are, you know. Hmm. I don't know. I'm kind of like, this looks like hair. Hmm. Interesting. Interesting. It's looking like hair, no? Am I like imagining things? I'm probably getting delusional. Well, anyway, kind of want to do something else now. I'm done with this thing. I don't want to look at it anymore. Actually, I really don't want to look at it anymore. It's eliciting like a primal, uh, like, ouch. Oh, oh my lord. Why do I always drive over my cable? Give me a second here. Okay, there we go. Let me just stand up and hope I don't get a heart attack. Heart attack? Heart attack. Still breathing. Somewhat. Okay, so what was I saying? I don't know. Okay. Let me just get some art from more accomplished people, from more knowledgeable people, from people that have learned to guide their subconsciousness. I don't know how true that is. Sometimes it's kind of feels like that. Also, it's kind of funny to think about this, like, super massive computational power or process that's happening just below your personality, in a sense of a stage lower. you know like, if you think about the layers of human consciousness, right? Very top is the ego, your most outwardly expression of your, let's keep it simple and just say personality, right? Which is made up of, kind of felt like I was talking in dialect, made up of made up. Anyway, it's kind of made up of a bunch of different layers, right? And one part of it being your subconsciousness, right? Your subconscious self. It's kind of interesting to think about the massive just process that's happening a layer below yourself, or a few layers below yourself, and and just thinking about all of the stuff that has to go on in there, all of the information that flows in, that is then filtered out, so that you don't overload essentially your conscious self. It's like I kind of understand why people are fascinated with the mystical and the magic and stuff like that, especially back in the day, the beginning of Christianity. I definitely understand, because it feels like the northern religions, the Norse religions, for example, or the high northern Germanic religions before Christianity, or the tribe religions of the Franks, or the Gauls, basically. It's kind of interesting to think about how they had a more perfect, just a deeper understanding about human subconsciousness, more so than Christianity itself. I don't know why I brought that up, but yeah, I'm getting distracted. Okay, let me go full body gesture. Let's see what I saved in here. I can't stop with the Mentos. Ba-da-dum, bum-ba, da-da-dum. Do I want to redraw something I've actually downloaded before and try to draw? Kind of want to, but also not really. Okay, let me just go into Pinterest here. Onto Pinterest, login, Pinterest.com. Let me get off my glove here. It's like obviously a few numbers too small for my hand, It kind of like cuts into my skin, it just sucks. All in all, not a product I can recommend. At least not the quality of it. You should still try and get a decent drawing glove though. I think they can be very useful to not get stuck on your tablet, Especially if you're using the more angled ones or the display ones that have a high angle, right? If you don't use a glove at that point, I could imagine you're not going to get very far, But before we begin, sorry, I've been like a bit indecisive today. I have to go to a meeting. I'll be right back with you. So let me just write that down. Why am I liking this so much? Be right back. Liking this. All right. See you in a few minutes. Sorry about that. All right, I am already back. Just give me a moment. Kind of want to do something here. Give me a second. All right, sorry about that. Okay, just wanted to record some music that kind of floated around in my head. I'm not necessarily like Cecilia. You know, I can't really make music at all, but usually once or twice a week, something along those lines. Sometimes more common, sometimes less so. I have these like tunes in my head, mostly melodies, and I just at some point started recording them, you know, just like some tunes. And I don't usually remember if this is something I've heard somewhere or if it's something that has, in a way, metastasized in my head. Like, if is it original or not? I can't say, but you know, I just started recording those ideas, started organizing them into folders, into general themes. Like, let me see, um, projects, Audacity, music drafts. So stuff like aggressive imperial, chants, um, trumpet, like fast trumpet kind of stuff, or it's the classification is a bit random at times, especially the folders. But often I add at the end of the names of the singular tracks the the instruments I can like imagine being part of this you know melody, being used for that melody. Stuff like, say, there's a file called jazz, for example, and I open like these not the past what's it called, like this thing here. Say you have a formula, right? 2x minus 1, right? I see 4, and then 2x minus 1 equals whatever, right? What do you call these things here? I don't know, right? And I almost said it. I don't remember. I'm sorry. I'm tangenting again. And I really liked how this looked. liked it. Maybe I should be writing like this from now on. Anyway, let's just get rid of it. Let's just get rid of it. Okay. Hmm. Yeah, let's just add like the general idea. Say chant theme is the name of a file, right? And then it's like, okay, what's part of it? A core maybe, like a pauke, like the massive like drum that occasionally is used in an orchestra, you know, strings or brass instruments, you know. Sometimes I do something like like I say more out of pocket things. I had more out of pocket things like blaring brass, like this, not scratchy, but this high pitch, like metallic kind of. I don't know how to describe it in words. Yes, and I'm already drawing, so I don't want to embarrass myself even more today. So yeah, I just I watched a video at some point because I was interested. I really wanted to make some music, you know, and I'm kind of like interested in a bunch of things. Um, like there's not really that much of a limit. I guess the only limit would be the things I don't make. So yeah, so there's a limit. Sorry. Let's get to drawing. Let's get to drawing. First, we have to find some reference. I don't want to do architecture. That's too difficult right now for me. Maybe. Ooh. Ooh, I'm liking this. Ooh, okay. Ooh, ooh. Zoidberg, greatest doctor of all time. Dr. Zoidberg. The hell is this? Anyway, a bunch of interesting things. I kind of want to do, like, there's so much things I want to do. But let's minimize it. I want to do something a bit more easy, kind of relaxing, So that means going a bit in the direction of human form. Maybe something like life drawings here. Not that I'm some sort of master in it, but that's what I'm accustomed to most in terms of just quantity, just in terms of mileage, I guess you could say. So that's usually what I revert to or refer to when I'm a bit too stressed. Yeah, stressed. Is that the right word? I think. I'm confused. My mind is kind of. It's a bit shutting down now. So, there's a lizard. They are actually listening in, huh? Like up to this point, I've never gotten a singular lizard. All of a sudden, Pinterest is recommending to me a lizard? Right. Out of pocket. Randomly. When the only thing I've clicked on in terms of animals is cats. Like I haven't even clicked at tigers or on tigers, that I've gotten recommended. But somehow you think about that I really want to see a lizard right now. Like right this moment. That's what I want to see. How do you know? They're listening in, guys. They're already selling my personal information. Can't believe it. The gall. It's kind of funny. How do they come up with this shit? They're obviously not good at predicting anything. Otherwise, they'd be like, well, let's, not do all of the things that we're doing currently, but Kind of funny, huh? Kind of funny. I'm onto you, Pinterest. If I find out that you sold my information to someone else, I'm gonna find you. I'm gonna find you, Billy. I'm gonna find you, Billy. And I'm gonna be destroying you, Billy. Anyway, like I get all of the other things. I clicked on mechs, which I looked for specifically. I clicked on a bunch of human figures, which I also looked for. And then I clicked on a bunch of hands, which I also looked for and clicked on. You know, most of these animals I understand. There's a bunch of cats, all sorts of cats, not only like house cats, bunch of like architecture and landscapes, because that's what I looked at and clicked on, right? Why a lizard of all things? And, it's kind of, what the hell? I also understand the anime recommendations because I clicked on a bunch of hairstyles. I clicked on a bunch of hololive girls. You know, I understand all of that. But why the lizard? Why the lizard of all things? Why? Why? There's some sort of meme in that why. I don't know. I don't remember. My mind is like trying to tell me, hey, that kind of sounded like a meme that you watched at some point. Anyway, I can't quite find anything to draw. Maybe we'll draw this cat here. Maybe what? Maybe you know what? Why unified? Why do a unified study of anything? Unified like how to say this? Instead of picking a coherent theme, let's just take any of these images that I can find and are interesting to me at this point in time. And yes, we'll go from there, I think. Maybe. I definitely have to work on my accuracy though in drawing, just line quality, line weight, perspective. That's what makes up the accuracy of your drawings, Then you can add on to that, maybe depending on what you are drawing, anatomical studies of the different animals or humans or whatever else it is, Also a more coherent construction of your mechanical forms or like household items, stuff like that, depending on what you're drawing. Ouch. 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 My back is hurting. My back's hurting. My back's hurting. What else would I like to do? Ba-dum-bum. Sorry guys, I'm taking way too long to just find some drawings. Anything I want to draw, I'm only getting like trucks and things. There's a bunny, monitor lizard, something that looks like a dragon. You know what? We'll draw this thing that kind of looks like a dragon. Probably some sort of gecko. If I had to take a guess. Is that Uguay? And we'll take Uguay. Because why not? Wait, actually, wasn't Uguay a turtle of sorts? I think so, right? I think he is. Anyway, let's save this. Projects, art, drawings, critter. No, reference. Let's go into. I'll just make a temporary folder. Temp. Whatever. I don't wanna bother finding all that stuff right now in 5 different like folders. Like why? Why? No, I think not. I think I won't. I think I won't do that. Alright, insert as many layers. Alright, let's get you grouped up, nice and comfy. Into the group of reference, please. All passengers refer to reference group. Reference. Referente. It's kind of insane though. Like I've been playing some Crusader Kings and stuff, and it's kind of insane to think how much the Roman Empire, as Aurora would say, right, has influenced Europe, you know? They were all basically fighting for the legacy, all the while the Italians were fighting each other. It's kind of insane how much of a vacuum that left. It's just, I don't know, it's just nice to think about. The cradle of civilization basically was Italy, you know? Like the tangible, cradle. I guess if you go back a bit further, you'd be like, okay, the Greeks, which obviously also top amazing people. Really sad what's happening to that country right now, but I'm not a Greek man, so can't really do much about it. Anyway, let's try drawing some of this, Let's try drawing some of this. And hey, maybe we'll do this, okay? Maybe we'll do this. I want to draw a sword, but I don't just want to redraw this sword. What if we do this? We take the skin of this lizard and put it on the grip, and we take symbolism of a cat, say like a paw or something else, and put it on the guard and maybe the pommel of the sword. How about we try that? Would that be interesting? I guess it could be. Let's try doing that. Why not? So let's get the general form here. Just trying to get an idea of where this is bending. This kind of looks not quite nice. This is okay-ish. I want to say... okay, I see now. I think I see now. Yeah. The ellipse down here is a bit weird. So we'll do some cheating here, I think. Ouch. My back is really hurting. Actually, before I drink any more of this, is there... Okay, fuck, I thought so. Fuck. Okay, I guess I have to ban black tea from my beverages because I'm technically not allowed to drink caffeine Okay, that's what it was. That's what it was. Of course, because all of the tea leaves, or the specific tea leaf that they're using here, has caffeine in it. Oh, fuck me. Fuck me, guys. I've been doing an oopsie, and I've not been drinking like with a cup of tea, or like you know, a glass, or like a teacup or anything. I've been drinking literal liters of that shit. Ah, fuck me. Man, I've been killing myself without realizing it. Fuck. Hey. I have to sit down after that shock. I have to sit down. Oh, fuck. I kind of knew it, but I didn't want to look. That's what comes of it. That's what comes of it. I heard there's like a new update for Lethal Company, though. I'm switching like topics so quickly, it's insane. Don't want to think about the oopsie I made. So we just switch topic, right? That's what good people do. Something you don't want to talk about, switch topic. That's just how it is. All right. Actually, this is more like this. Don't quite understand the logic, but okay. That's how it is. So we have the general outline of a sword. Although this thing here is not working quite as well. So we'll get rid of it. I wanted to do some cat things anyway. So let's get some ideas. Mr. Cat, your paw kind of looks like this. Yes? Something along those lines, no? Symbol of a cat paw. You do call those paws, though? Yes? I think you do. It's quickly starting to devolve to not look like cat paws anymore. How to make this work here? Maybe add some things here. We could try and be just like, okay, well, that's now what this looks like. And be like, okay, that's what it now looks like. That's the pommel. The pommel all of a sudden is like this super complex. Almost looks like a Canadian maple leaf. Or maple leaf in general. So perhaps that's not the best. What else are cats known for? Obviously, their mouth, right? Their, like, I don't know what you call these hairs here at their snout or nose or whatever you call it. I'm not like a cat expert of any sort, of any significant. Hmm. 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 Let's have a look at. Actually, yes, I want to save it. Sorry. Yes, yes, yes. I want to save it. Let's look at the cat I drew in this week here. I think it was this week, yes. Oh no, maybe I'm misremembering, huh? Looks like I did. Looks like I did, yes. So not practice week 6, but practice week 5 apparently. No, I don't want to say it. Practice week 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There it is. Cat. Cat. Hmm. When we could do some The Witcher-esque talisman design thing. It's kind of funny how that, the law that The Witcher is based on isn't actually Polish. It's kind of funny how that worked. But, like, you know, that's a whole different discussion. Just kind of funny. It's like, I wonder, like, actually wonder if it's just. No, I actually just wonder why um, Polish people are like thieves of kind of Europe, Western Europe. Although I guess they do count to Eastern because they are Slavic people, right? It's like in German culture, there's a lot of jokes about if you're missing something, just go on vacation in Poland. You lost your car, it's already in Poland. That kind of stuff. I wonder why that is. Is it because of the First World War and Second? Is it because of the grievances that still exist? I don't know. I mean, could be. Could also not be the case. So we could be doing something like this, maybe. This looks more like a rat, actually, than anything else. But if we give it, like, big... Hmm. Could do something like this. Maybe we should... Okay. Yes. The masculine ideal of a war weapon. Just imagine striking down a man in war with a sword, looking as ridiculous as that. That would be a shame that no matter how many times you're being reincarnated or however, I don't know, far away heaven is from earth. It's a kind of shame you never forget. It's like the Hello Kitty warrior of the medieval times. This is like this is almost like a Doom guy shit post. It's like I shall strike thee down. Pulls out his sword. and it's like Hello Kitty themed. Like, imagine getting struck down by something like this. Shame, shame. That's an instant reload right there. It's like pause, pause game, hold up, pause game, reload. Then you realize it's real life. It's like, damn. I guess that's, if I had a time machine, I would go ahead, have a sword made like this, and enlist in the army of some fucking lord somewhere in Europe and strike down my foes with a Hello Kitty sword. I'd be the greatest master of the sword arts. Plus, you would get beheaded by a Hello Kitty sword. Although, I'm not. This is just a jest, of course. Like, I'm not really into all the warfare, but it's more like not an aversion to, not a tendency even, or maybe tendency is the right word. It's like a tendency, I would say, a masculine tendency to think about war, you know, fighting and hunting and that kind of stuff. It's something that's a bit deeper than social norms. It's a bit more biologically inclined, I suppose you could say. So anyway, we'll strike the cat. It's funny, but I don't know, huh? I don't know if that's a good idea. Damn, but like 40 to 80 milligrams of caffeine is like insane, no? We'll just draw a heart. I want a heart. Whee! That's the ultimate disrespect. Christianity is the religion of love. That's what, you know, the Templar sword looked like. I had first-hand experience. Imagine. Imagine this. Just imagine it. For a second, envision medieval knight. An honorable duel, striking down his foe with his sword decorated with hearts or like cat paws. Pink, because it's Hello Kitty. Okay, so maybe we'll do some Monster Hunter-esque things here. Let's get rid of this thing here. So we kind of want to do something like maybe this. And we kind of want to do this. Kind of like trying to keep the, general style of what I'm seeing here, but I've never drawn scales, so I don't have a sort of shorthand to quickly get the idea across. I mean, I guess I could wait. Let me see. Not really. I'd have to really push it in here and do something like that, maybe. Really push it in here and do something like that. Really push it in here. do something like that, maybe. Really push it in there. I know, something like that, maybe. Like, I mean, you know, maybe this could work for scales. I mean, I guess that actually works, you know. You don't want to. That kind of works. This looks like a scale or like rocks, you know. Kind of have to be, you know, um, careful with where I place the light. But let me just close the window here for a second, and I should get myself some water, get the caffeine out of my system. So I'll be back in a second. Give me a moment. So, hmm, 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 hmm. All right. Okay, I guess it doesn't work that way because I'm, you know, trying to do this like scale thing here. But it doesn't really work if you're just working with a block. At least it doesn't work for me. So I'll just go in. Actually, let's try drawing in the scale like so. And then go in with that. Then go in with that. Then go in with that. And go in and see how this works. We'll see if it does it all. Kind of, but also not really. Again, never drawn any sort of scale before. So I have no idea how to make them look right. Kind of thought of like some sort of scaly pommel, but maybe keeping it simple might be best, huh? If I don't know what to do, just keep it simple. Just keep it simple. Easy. Like I've been of that mind on a different note, I have to say first. On a different note, I've been of this mind, or I've had this idea quite a long time, but it was still refreshing to see, like modern media, I think it was Dungeon Meshi, where Senshi basically said something along the lines of, whenever you make something easier for yourself, you also make yourself weaker, you know? And I think we are at the point in our modern life, in the modern era, where most people can't do a whole lot of things, like the most basic things that just 40 years ago everyone would have been doing, the type of self-sufficiency and just autarky, I think is the word, right? Like this, autarky, to be autark, or is that German? I don't quite know. Let me see. Actually, definition: autarky. National self-sufficiency, a self-sufficient region or country, economic independence as national policy. Is that The state of personal self-sufficiency. Okay, the fifth definitional bracket, I guess. That's the in that way I'm using this word. So like, kind of like self-sufficiency that's very basic up until recent, you know, human history basically. It's become really rare and I just worry, you know. I understand that it's inefficient, right? And I understand that delegation of duties is important, but I don't know. Something about that just doesn't sit right with me. I don't know how to explain this. Like I don't have, don't have the words for it, really. I guess what I thought about more yesterday when I'm drawing here was like trying to think of this placing of shadows as a carving into the form, right? I think. And I believe it works, you know? Hmm. Brum-pa-pum. Hmm. Guess the only thing I don't like about this brush would be the kind of, if you're not good with shadows and forms and stuff, which I'm not, a lot of these drawings come out as smudged and just very like blurry. They look weird, don't quite work out the way I would like them to. They just look funny, and I don't like funny. I'm not a funny man, I'm a German. I'm not funny, I'm German. I'm not a funny, I'm German, you know? So, anyway. I'm a bit confused, if I'm being honest. Hmm. Why do I put in the scales? I really want to put in some scales. Man, maybe, maybe just here on this, like, is that the shaft? What do you call this part? I don't know. Don't know how to draw swords. Don't know how to make swords. Would be a cool skill to have, though. Guys, I'm gonna learn how to make swords. Gonna become the greatest blacksmith of all time. It will be beautiful. Not even sure if this actually looks like a scale. You obviously, still want it to be handled well, the sword. So you wouldn't want to do anything too crazy that cuts yourself. Although in most cases you would wear gloves anyway. Still, what if you're not? Do you want to cut up your flesh? Because some fucking smith had a great idea of how to hurt the user more than the enemy. Maybe I'll drop it. Nah, let's stick to it. Let's stick to it for now. We can still cry about it later. Actually, no mind. I think I can try and do this kind of stuff here. We'll see how well it works out. Maybe the issue is that I'm making very small scales, and then I'm not bending them really. What if I do this? Something larger. Certainly looks a lot different. But it's like there's a lot of detail despite not having drawn a whole lot. Because I'm just using light and shadows to do the heavy lifting. Not that that makes it any better, because I'm still not a good artist, but you know, through some trickery we can make it work, I think. I don't know. We'll see. Does this look like a sword? Not really. And it's way too, like, it looks way too detailed. It's so weird. Man, it's so weird. But hey, at least we're not just redrawing stuff. Whoops, do. Whoopsily, whoopsily do. Whoopa. Whoopa Gundam style. Whoop, 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 whoop. I'm old, guys. I'm old. Pain in my chest. The impending aneurysm and heart attack. I can feel it in my very bone marrow. Ah, well. Anyway. Wee! Wee! Now it's like, wait. Reincarnated as a sword, right? Wee! Thumbs up! Amazing. Hmm. Now that I thought about it, drawing these hands, they really reminded me of Coroner's art. Corone. Coroner's art. Corone. Corone. You know, Koro-san, essentially. Right? And I've been kind of just now thinking that she really has the makings of an artist, of a good artist, even. The only thing that's missing is just the time investment to try and understand the subject, and find a way for yourself to represent three-dimensional forms on a two-dimensional plane. You know? That's really the only thing she's missing really is a bunch of studies. Or whatever she would do, to develop a method of breaking this stuff down, because hell, you might not even have to, do all the things that other people tell you to. I don't think you should either. It's usually not a healthy way to live. Occasionally, it's very helpful. Though, I don't know. Nowadays, just kind of a no thank you. Oh, I almost started um, what's it called? Whistling. Right? Usually, that's not a good idea when you're on the microphone. Whew. Crisis averted. Crisis averted. I don't know if I'm learning anything here, but I have fun doing it, or at least I don't mind it as much. We'll see. You know. But back to what I was saying about Corona's art, and why I think she has the makings of a great artist. Because honestly, you have to be insane a little bit to want to be an artist. That or very desperate, or both. You know. But essentially, it's like the greatest measure of an artist and of his quality or his general mm, ability to succeed or probability to succeed, is his grit. Like the greatest artists of them all, I think, personally, and I also believe that to be the case for someone like Bob Ross, is their grit. There's almost a psychotic element to it, I think. Not, perhaps not as a. I probably make it sound worse than it actually is. But um yeah. What was I saying? Right. The grit of an artist, I think all great artists have the ability to really, in German there's a word and it's like verbissen. So it's like kind of means to have bitten into something so hard that you can't let go, essentially. I don't know what to translate this as right now, but let me see. Try and translate it. We'll see, we'll see, we'll see. Determined, I guess, relentless. Dogged. Dogged determination. Relentless. Yeah, doggedly, fiercely. So it's like they all have, like, all of these artists, I personally think, although I can't prove it, have a very, very, they have the ability to just keep going, come what may, kind of deal. And I don't know if there's like a unified reason for this, like similar upbringings or such things, I don't think. There might be some overlap, of course, but I don't think it's that. It's just a general ability to be really determined about achieving something or sticking to something, rather, It's like, yeah. I don't know why I brought that up and why I think that either. Maybe I'm trying to make this a myth, Drawing is so difficult. You have to be the biggest badass in the world. Kind of way. But I think genuinely it's true, Like, and obviously there are gonna be like some like outliers. Like, I wouldn't, for example, yeah, never mind, never mind, never mind. Let's drop the topic. I don't know, man, what I'm drawing here. Kind of looks funny and very blurry. This is very, very blurry. Don't really like it. Hmm. I've been kind of thinking if I should start playing Deadlock lately, because I've seen, was it Cleo? I think it's Cleo, like from Face Connect. Because I've seen her play it a bunch, but I don't know. I mean, maybe that's a good idea. Maybe it's not a good idea. We'll see. Because on one hand, I'm really done with like MOBAs. You know, I can't stand them. On the other hand, you know, if it's Valve, maybe it might be not that bad. You know, maybe it's not bad, or at least not as terrible as say Valorant. No offense to Valorant players. Actually, all the offense, but don't tell them. Actually, no offense to the Valorant players that are called Elizabeth Rose Bloodflame. All the offense to all others. No, but like, you know, I'm really done with Riot Games. I can't. No, I'm never gonna touch another Riot Games game in my entire lifetime. That's not gonna happen. They'd have to pay me a lot of money, like amounts that just seem obscene. You know. Otherwise, no, not doing it. Mm-mm. I don't even know what I'm doing here with this. I'm just like doing something. Some weird things. Some weird things. Let's try just drawing the. Ouch, my hand is hurting. Let's just try drawing the lizard. Just the general shape here. We can be very gestural about this, I think. Okay, so I want this a bit flatter actually in here. Yeah. But I guess we could exaggerate it too a little bit. Why not? You know, it's not like it's gonna hurt me or anything. Hmm. He's looking kind of happy, you know. At least my version is looking a bit happy. No, we don't want to push form in. Not yet, at least. We want to push in the forms here. We want to push in the forms here to give the effect of a three-dimensional form here. Then we want to push in some of that over here, and then quite the opposite up there. Oh, so we want to extend this a bit here. Let's not go. Let's not go. What? Let's not go. Let's not get too distracted here for now. That looks like a dinosaur, like a bird thingy. I'm kind of looking sad. Okay. Okay, so I also want to make sure that we see some of the underside of that chin here. Oops. So we want to get rid of this. line here mostly. Some of this here as well. Maybe even that line for now. Actually, let's not do that. We'll see. Actually, I have to lean back a bit more. Okay. I'm still kind of a bit. I'm still a little bit stun locked from the fact that uh, there's actually caffeine in black tea. Kind of had it like, kind of knew it in a way, but I didn't want to look to have the certainty. But yeah, no more black tea for like ever. I wasn't showing such a nice streak of never drinking caffeine, or so rarely that you could count it on one hand, basically. All the times when I did drink caffeine, a lot more. I think I drank a lot more in my childhood, when I was 5 years old. So, kind of want a pushing in to the lower eyelid here, because if you look closely, that's what's going on here. Then you want to pull out this form here so that it's clean. This might be too much. Might be too much. Ouch. My arm. Oh. Okay, my hand is falling asleep. Ow. All right. Let me redo the nose here a little bit. Snout or whatever you call this. Because I need to bring all of this a bit more to the left. Actually. Because it's a bit too far. That's a funny looking lizard though. If that even counts as a lizard, I don't know. Or is it a snake? No, it's not a snake. Like I meant that ironically, but then I had to think and I was like, no, probably not. If I exaggerate a little bit here, like right there, and I do this, and maybe do this, and maybe erase this, and that, and this, some of that, some of this, maybe some of that, erase some of this, It's kind of looking like some sort of weird bird, no? We do a chimera now. Guys, I decided we do some experimentation. I think. Maybe not, you know? Maybe we won't. Maybe it's looking directly at us. Because its eyes are weird like a lizard, you know? Maybe it's looking directly at us. It's trying to think how it can best dismember you. You know? Maybe at this point in time it's watching you from the dark abyss of your closet. Or it's waiting outside your home right this moment. I don't know. Just making some shit up, you know? Making shit up as we go. Whatever. But since I don't know how to do a lot of things with the brushes, I guess we'll only use this one brush to try and figure that stuff out. Whatever that stuff is. Maybe we should give him like some scales after all. Maybe it's a lead? What? Maybe it's a weird. What even is that supposed to mean? Maybe it's a weird hybrid of like a bird and a lizard. Lizard. Ouch, 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 ouch. I'm doing something very bad here. Ouch. Like I'm pressing super hard onto my ulnar nerve. And yeah, my hand is not enjoying that. Ow. My arm is kind of killing me. This is looking like shit. But you know what? At least it's my shit. And not someone else's. At least it's my shit. Should I do feathers or scales? Should I do a combination? Like a cockatrice of sorts, you know? Or like a basilisk in some lore. Some folklore. Hmm. Ba-da-ba-bum-bum-bum-bum. This looks like shit. Terrible dog shit. Revert. Attention, all personnel. Evacuate facility immediately. What's the alert in Half-Life? The sound of the voice. Attention, all personnel. No, it's more like it's not necessarily more robotic, although kind of because of the echo, I believe, right? If I remember correctly. Maybe I should have it open its mouth, huh? And do something. So we go down here, and then we do something like this. Something like this, maybe. I kind of felt like I saw like a bird creature, probably from Made in Abyss or something, that had like these 10 trillion teeth. Kind of looked like a somewhat regular bird. Then it opened its mouth. It's what? Then it opens its mouth. Can't even English anymore. And you're just like, oh shit. Fuck. Although this doesn't really look threatening. Oh, whatever. Sometimes you miss. That's fine. Today, this creature kinda misses. But that's okay. It occurs. Haven't really been drawn like much. Hololive sketches. Kinda hurt. But, I wanna. While I do wanna draw them, the girls and such, do some memes, I'm certainly not on the level of like Shadow Sky.exe or EXE, right? Who basically only every day, all day, draws some Hololive fan art, which, hey, by all means, good for him if that's what he really enjoys doing. I do too, but I just kind of feel like I'm not good enough. Maybe that's an issue, and I should just overcome that. But I also can't lie, I enjoy doing this stuff too. I enjoy doing that stuff. And perhaps it's gonna slow down my progress, I don't know. I'm like, in general, I'm not a one-trick pony in that sense. Like I kind of have this aversion to the idea. I see its benefits, especially in something as complex as art. You know, I can see the benefits. I can truly. Still, don't think it's for me. Ow. Ouch, 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 ouch. Just looking wrong. Okay, there we go. Hmm. But I mean, I guess you can just draw it anyway, huh? Any way. As in, any which way. Hmm. Maybe you don't have to follow the forms too closely. But like, there's so much conflicting information going around on how to improve on drawing. Even for myself, it's like, it's not transparent. I can't The best thing I can tell you is stop watching videos and just start drawing. Honestly, honestly. And if you reach the point where you're like, so I've been drawing a lot, am I gonna improve anytime soon? Maybe that's the point where you can, you know, I don't know, start thinking about more complex topics in art, The earlier you start with just getting over your fear of drawing dog shit, I think the easier it's going to be doing anything else. Because it's such a massive, again, as I said, I'm talking circularly now. But as I said before, if you can get over the fact that you're going to draw like shit for the vast majority of your beginning stages, right? And you just get the worry out of your mind about it, essentially. The earlier you do that, the easier you'll have the and the easier a time you will have, the easier, yes, the easier it will be for you to actually start, improving, studying, that kind of stuff. Because even if no one's watching you when you're drawing, right, you're still being critical towards yourself because you want to improve, right? You want to draw like all the nice, amazing artists that you see out there giving you advice on YouTube videos, right? Or maybe just on Instagram, or maybe on Twitter, or whatever it is, wherever you find the inspiration, you know, to do it. Wherever you find the inspiration, you want to get obviously as good as those guys, right? You'd like to create that kind of art, no? So obviously you're going to critique yourself for not reaching that standard, right? But the faster you can just calm down and slow down, especially your thought process, try and keep up with your hand, in a sense. Like currently, I'm just thinking or trying to think about planes. I don't know what this creature looks like, but as an example, I could be like, okay, well, maybe if I don't know what it looks like, maybe I'll just follow the reference I have here, no? What if I do that instead? So say we have this plane here, and we have I don't know, like I'm just trying to, make it look appealing and not stress too much about what it actually looks like, how bad it is, rather. Just want to try and have fun. Just try and have fun. Don't ruin your soul. And hey, maybe through trying, you'll figure out you don't actually want to draw. You just want to look at nice art. That's fine too, It's perfectly valid to just want to look at nice art. Absolutely. Absolutely valid thing to do. There's no shame in that, essentially. Ouch. I've been overusing my wrist though. Like, what I usually forget doing when I'm trying these like new things is actually moving my arm. That's the biggest flaw currently. You know, all the technical shit aside, the biggest issue, the biggest issues are just like, actually using your arm or at least your elbow to draw, you know. So some things to keep in mind about, you know, drawing or art in general. Art is a practice of abstraction. Okay, at least post the invention of a photography apparatus of some sort, you know. It's the art of looking, or rather observing reality and simplifying it. That's what you will be doing mostly. You know? That's what you will mostly be doing in your art journey. It's kind of starting to look like a dragon again. Well, this is maybe a bit too much, yeah? Hmm. Hmm. Starting to look like I'm carving into the eyelids here. Yes, yes. Oh. Maybe not here. Still trying to punch through the... This looks so like... so weird. Why does this kind of look like so high definition? You know what I mean? Kind of funny. I like it though. It's not terrible. I like the eyelids here. I do have to say. I want to change of plane here. And maybe here. Then I want some slightly darker here, slightly less dark, all the way out. Ah, yeah. Oh, oof. Oh, my finger's killing me. Ow. I'm trying, okay? I'm trying. Didn't think it would look this nice. I didn't think I would try and make a dragon again. But hey, it's like whatever, man. That's what's gonna help. It's gonna help, I guess. I just hope I'm doing something that's gonna help me improve. Maybe I don't actually have to press down as hard here. No, not this. is this? Why am I rendering this so much? I don't know. I mean, I just want to see if I can do anything at all. I guess it would be a bit darker. Kind of want to... Yes. Or maybe I should use like an airbrush for this, huh? For what I want to do here. In a way. Oh, whoops. Hmm. I have to be honest. Like I want less smudging actually. This is too smudgy-ish. Too much smudging. I want more like of a sharper round brush to help me out here. Not everywhere, I think. But on some edges, I think, the drawing could benefit. Or maybe I should just take a ball pen. Let's take, what is this? Size flow 1. Let's just take size flow 1. On some edges, this is a bit too much actually. Not everywhere. Just on some. Whoops. Certainly immediately changing the whole look of this thing. And I'm not sure if it's for the better yet. Probably not. But it's fine. We're just trying out a few things, yeah. Here and there. Not really. Doesn't really look good. At least not directly in the eye. Here. The rest is kind of okay. Funny though. It's funny to draw like this. Even though this looks like shit. The rest of this drawing is insanely dog shit. Yeah. Kind of funny how poorly drawn this is. I'm still doing the same mistake here, I think, you know? Not constructing enough. Not constructing enough. Kind of looks like a cross of a pig and a fucking dragon of some sort. Some manner or means. Some particular way. Combining those. Anyway. This looks like shit. Anyway. I see. Not quite following any forms here because I don't know how to make this look. Jesus Christ. For a second, I was like, hmm, did this eye just look at me? I was like, hmm. Maybe I have magical powers where if I'm drawing enough of a thing, I can make it real. Guys, take care not to look at what I'm drawing. Holy shit. Stop looking at me. Calm down. Okay, I'll draw you. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Maybe the other Joe doesn't kind of. Maybe it doesn't really work. I mean, most of this drawing doesn't work anyway, but it's a mess. But it's a nice mess. It's my mess. You know, and it's not like we couldn't clean it up if I really wanted to. Most of the time I don't want to though. So this is looking so weird. Look at this shit. What is this? Hmm. Who made this? Who's drawing like this? This is trash. We shouldn't be drawing like this. I have to press. I have to press in too hard. I'm using this soft eraser here. Don't like it. Hmm. Maybe instead of trying to construct it like I always do, right? Like with these lines, and then we have like, I don't know, some face, and then we have some hair, right? And then we have some mouth and some nose, some weird as ears, you know, or like we don't have any hair, we just have ears, something like this. Maybe we have like Homer Simpson hair. Or what is Homer's hair? I think it's on the side, right? Maybe we just have these kind of weird ass looking thing. Maybe instead of trying to construct it like this, maybe I should move on to. Let's see if I can do this. Doesn't quite work. And it is quite laggy if you look at it. Maybe I should, you know, start constructing like so. Although these brushes don't quite work for that. As you can see, they don't blend well because they're supposed to be markers, right? So the colors don't quite work out. They kind of work, but also not really. I kind of want to. Sometimes I want this brush to not render individual strokes. But I don't think that's an option for Critter. Like I've seen an option like that for Procreate, because sometimes I just want really large lines, preferably without lagging too much. You know? Ouch. Okay. My hand is killing me. My hand is killing me. I'm not gonna get any further. This looks like dog shit. But it's my kind of dog shit. I don't know if I learned anything here. But oh, but didn't. I hope I didn't, make you deaf now. I don't want to overstay my welcome, though. I don't want to jeopardize. My name is Jeff. Jeopardy. Hmm. I don't want to compromise my health, more than I need to. So I'm gonna end it here for today, guys. I hope you drew along or made your own whatever this is supposed to be. Pseudo value studies. Whatever. Hope you had some fun. Maybe you learned something. I hope I did. I hope we all did, Already shoving the Mentos in my mouth. Sorry. I'm a bit too relaxed here, huh? Anyway, I'm gonna sit somewhere where it's actually comfortable to sit. Because this chair is gonna kill me one day. Ouch. I just know it. Anyway, take care of yourselves. Yeah, I'll try to do the same. Have a nice rest of your day or morning, whatever it is. Either way, I think it applies. English. Well then, have some fun learning. Try not to beat yourself up too much. Keep it light. Keep it, take it as a jest. If you fail, laugh about it as best as you can. Perhaps you're not exactly the type for that, so, I can't help you too much. But that just means you have to find your own method. Could be better than mine. I don't know. Aim for the stars, and even if you miss, you'll be somewhere among them, right? Don't know what the saying was exactly, but it doesn't hurt. Having high ambitions, try to break down your goals into small, achievable packets, though, to not overwhelm yourself. Sometimes you might not even know that you're overwhelming yourself, Like I've been drawing for 840, 50, 60-ish days. Can't quite tell. Back to back. I'm feeling fine, honestly. Like I'm enjoying this a lot. Anyway, I'm yapping too much. Try to have fun. And don't, worry about not putting in like 5, 6, 7, 8, or even 1 hour of drawing time. It's more about the quality. And that mostly, I think, depends on if you're having fun, because that's when you absorb things, if you're interested in what you're doing. And that you can only cultivate. You can't, to an extent, you can't just find what you're interested in and work off the laurels of that, you know? You cannot find your true self, you have to create it. Anyway, I'm yapping, tangenting. I'm gonna go now. Maybe rewatch some Dungeon Meshi. Maybe not, we'll see. I think I said everything important. I'll probably see you next time.